Next on Action News, we'll have live comprehensive coverage on the shuttle disaster. Montgomery County school children had a scientific tie to the shuttle mission, and a King of Prussia firehouse burns down. I'm Rob Jennings. Action News is next.
Subway's changed my life. I've got more energy, and I need it with a wife at home. Now there's plenty to take care of. I have a yard to keep, things to build. I work up quite an appetite. Now Subway has low-fat sauces, like honey mustard on turkey. I love the new meat.
Subway, eat fresh!
Well, what this is a Chow Dynasty fondue pot. This is what was once called a telephone. Back here, this is something that was once referred to as a wire. People would actually be tethered to the wall.
That's weird.
Do you know how much this is worth?
No.
Diddly squat.
Dadgummit.
When your wireless phone can be your only phone, that's M-Life from AT&T Wireless.
It's capable of taking you to places on Earth that are pretty rough. So the all-new 4Runner has been designed to be even more spacious and comfortable along the way. You'll feel like you finally got some breathing room between yourself and everyone else. The all-new 4Runner. No other SUV has ever been on its terrain.
Mama keeps color bold and bright, cause Mama's got the magic of Clorox too.
For stains on colors, you need Clorox too. It removes stains like Clorox bleach does from white.
Mama's got the magic of Clorox too.
New night, new time, and all new practice. ABC Monday at 9/8 Central.
Next on Dragnet.
He was asphyxiated.
Someone's trying to make a murder look like a robbery.
Drowned?
Why would these guys kill their partner?
You have no reason to suspect these two gentlemen of anything.
Client of yours got killed sometime last night.
Sucks for him.
Actually, it looks like someone delivered him to the crime scene.
Any ideas on who killed Jason?
Here's one. Where were you Wednesday night?
An all-new Music Man, just for the fun of it. ABC in 2 weeks.
Up next, hundreds of pieces of the shuttle are found. We will have the latest on the investigation in a live report from Texas. Action News is next.
The Long Walk Home, 11:35 tonight. Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Sally Ann Mosey, Phil Andrews, and Rob Jennings.
A charred astronaut's helmet, another piece of wreckage, and nobody knows what that could have been. Just two of the thousands of pieces of debris being gathered across Texas and Louisiana tonight, all important parts of the grim puzzle that is the Shuttle Columbia disaster. It is Sunday night, and the big story on Action News is the latest on the shuttle disaster. Hundreds of people are scouring Texas and Louisiana for debris from the shuttle. More than 1,000 sites have already been found. New information about the final minutes of the Columbia flight could shed light into the cause of the disaster, and NASA officials say more of the remains of the astronauts have been found. Memorial services are already being held across the country. Now the details. People across eastern Texas and western Louisiana continue to find pieces of the Space Shuttle Columbia. That debris is scattered across an area about 120 miles long and about 10 miles wide. Searchers are scouring thick woods and swamps and pastures. All kinds of debris has been found by hundreds of local and federal law enforcement officials and volunteers. The largest concentration appears to be near Nacogdoches, Texas. And Action News reporter Michelle McCormick is live there tonight with the latest on the recovery efforts. Michelle?
Well, Rob, 2 schools will not have class tomorrow. This to allow FEMA plenty of room to document and then remove the debris. At last report, some 1,200 debris sites have been identified here since Saturday's tragedy. In the oldest town in Texas, cowboys are vital in the search for shuttle debris. So rugged is this territory that many here expect to be finding parts of Columbia for weeks, even months from now. Carl Gotti has found 16 items in one day.
Most of it's just been insulation or pieces of rubber, but no metal or anything.
Is a piece of metal or of tile?
Man and horse are working side by side with students from the Stephen F. Austin Forest Research Institute based in Nacogdoches. They're using satellite mapping technology and have come up with the following pattern for the debris.
Looks like somebody took a football and just pulled it out real tight. So it's an ellipse. It starts fairly tight to the northwest, and it gets wider, and then it starts to tighten back up as apparently the debris was getting lower and lower to the ground.
Searchers have learned to canvass debris sites multiple times. For example, in this school in Douglas, Texas, it was easy to spot the debris on the rooftop and playground, but our own Action News photographer Jason Marasini came across yet another piece of debris that had not yet been marked, but was soon placed on the debris path grid. Residents are drawn to these debris sites, some to take pictures, others to pay tribute. There's a real concern, however, that the longer these debris sites remain, the greater the likelihood the debris may disappear.
And this is coming from the FBI. Please do not commandeer any parts of the shuttle. NASA desperately wants to get those back, and the FBI has informed us that if you take that, that is federal property, and if they can identify that you have done so, they will pursue legal action and prosecute if necessary to get that back.
County officials acknowledge that because of a manpower shortage, they have dramatically scaled back the number of debris sites that they are guarding. They also tell me the feds have given them no indication whatsoever just how long the shreds of Columbia will be in their town. Live in Nacogdoches, Michelle McCormack, Channel 6 Action News. Rob?
Thank you, Michelle. Once the debris is collected and cataloged, it will be trucked to Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana. That's about 150 miles east of Dallas and northeast of Nacogdoches. There, investigators will begin a painstaking reconstruction of what remains of Columbia. Engineers from one of NASA's key contracting companies will join forensic and metals experts in going over every piece of debris for clues. Meanwhile, bomb squads from Barksdale have joined the search for parts of the shuttle that may not only be toxic, but explosive.
Some of their escape hatches had the ability to be blown off in an emergency in order to rapidly open up the vehicle. All that stuff is out there. It obviously represents a danger, and our folks have the expertise to get out there and make it safe.
And NASA officials say additional computer data shows the problem might have begun several minutes before Columbia went over Texas airspace. The first sign of trouble was at 7 minutes before 9, 8:53 Eastern Time, as the shuttle passed over California. A 20 to 30 degree temperature rise in the left wheel well. That unusual temperature rise continued as the shuttle passed over western Nevada. The right side stayed normal. At 8:58, there was an increased drag on the left side. NASA lost landing gear and tire pressure measurements for the left wheel well. 1 minute later, the shuttle experiences continued drag on the left side over Texas. The automated flight system tries to correct, but the shuttle disintegrates moments later. NASA officials aren't sure what caused the drag problem, but they have some ideas.
Does this mean something to us? We're not sure. It can be indicative of rough tile. It can be indicative for perhaps missing tile. We're not sure yet.
As we've said, a piece of debris broke off the main fuel tank during liftoff January 16th, and it appears it struck the left wing where the trouble started yesterday. Officials say they do not have the capability to adequately examine the shuttle in space, and even if they were aware of a problem up there, there would be no way to fix it. Now, let's switch live to Action News reporter Nydia Hahn. She's outside Johnson Space Center in Texas with more on the investigation and where it's going. Nydia?
Rob, you can see the flag flies at half-mast behind me as NASA investigators began the very painful process of piecing together this disastrous puzzle. They are being forced to answer some tough questions tonight, not just what happened, but what's next.
I'm sure that you can imagine that for us, the last 24 to 36 hours have been a blur.
But NASA's search for answers is just beginning, and any clues to Columbia's breakup are critical. The good news is investigators see a glimmer of hope. They expect to pull an additional 32 seconds of data after the point it lost Columbia's signal. The information from the computer system on the ground may not be completely intact, but it's better than nothing.
Well, we're going to go after that 50%. Maybe that information may lend something to our investigation. We've done it in the past. We did it during Challenger, and so we're going to go after this information.
They will also overlay their timeline to reports from an astronomer in California who believes he saw debris shedding from the orbiter as well.
And hopefully the two of them will help us piece together a path that we think might lead us to the cause.
Meanwhile, mourners continue to gather outside Johnson Space Center as the memorial continues to grow. And Action News talked to the widow of Ilan Ramon, the first Israeli astronaut.
My husband was the best of the best. It's not by accident that he was chosen to be the first one from Israel. He was a very modest, very positive, very optimist person.
We have full confidence in NASA, in the American authorities. We know things like that happen. This is a terrible price that humankind pays for its daring, for its exploration, for its curiosity.
And the exploration continues as NASA officials keep in constant close contact with the 3 astronauts still in orbit aboard the International Space Station.
They're grieving up there also, and they feel a little isolated. We're keeping them fully informed, and I told Sachs I wouldn't keep anything from him. This is going to pass. We're going to continue to fly, and we are flying, and we're going to continue to do great things.
As for the Columbia investigation, NASA officials remind us this is a very fluid situation. Things can change at any time. They are very early in the analysis stage. Of course, we will stay on top of the investigation and bring you the very latest information as it becomes available. Reporting live from Johnson Space Center, I'm Nydia Hahn, Channel 6, Action News.
Thank you, Nydia. Initial plans call for the remains of the 7 Columbia astronauts to be taken to Dover Air Force Base, Delaware. Dover houses the U.S. military's largest and best-equipped mortuary. The bodies of U.S. soldiers killed overseas are often sent here before being returned to their families. Dover also received and identified the remains of the astronauts killed in the Challenger disaster 17 years ago. Columbia's crew was remembered today in many ways around the country. In Texas, a makeshift memorial pays tribute to the astronauts at the gates of the Johnson Space Center. And nearby, church services were dominated by the tragedy as the names of the fallen astronauts were read aloud. President Bush attended services in Washington, but he will be at Johnson Space Center Tuesday to take part in a special memorial. And in Florida, the astronaut memorial at Kennedy Space Center was another focal point for grief. The names of 17 astronauts who made the ultimate sacrifice are engraved here. That list now 7 names longer. Pope John Paul II invited everyone to pray for Columbia's fallen crew. The Pope said he felt spiritually close to the families of the victims, and he assured them that they were in his prayers. Now, that's our coverage of the Shuttle disaster for now. We're going to have more for you later in the newscast, including a report on a group of local school students whose science experiment was aboard Columbia. That will be coming up in just a few minutes. But still ahead, the rest of the day's news. Your doctor may not be in tomorrow. We will tell you why thousands of local doctors' offices will be empty tomorrow. A live report coming up. Action News heads overseas with the troops. We'll have a look at how a new conflict with Iraq could be much different from the first war. Sally Ann?
Well, temperatures are headed above the average to start the work week, but then will plummet again before it all ends. The details in the exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast.
And it's been an all-star Sunday in sports. Phil Andrews is here with scores and highlights. Much more when Action News continues in a moment.
Jim has a sense of comedy, and you can't put anything by.
Well, Gary's such a wise guy.
Cecily is a ray of light, a bolt of energy. We talk about what's happening all over the world, but we are talking to people who live in this community. It is a family. Our